We have to make a deal. Otherwise, it's going to be very traumatic. Iran, if they don't make a deal. Look, if they don't make a deal, then it'll be a different story. They should have made a deal the first time. They got midnight hammer.
President Trump meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday, where they discussed U.S. negotiations with Iran.
Iran fired its most advanced ballistic missile on live national television, just hours before nuclear talks with the United States were set to begin in Oman. A senior advisor to the leader of the Islamic Revolution has reiterated Iran's unwavering position on its defense capabilities, broadcasting the launch to every American war planner, every Gulf Arab government, and every Israeli defense official watching in real time. Iranian state television aired footage of the Khorramshahr-4 ballistic missile, confirming its entry into operational service from inside the IRGC's new underground missile cities, showing the weapon positioned inside deep fortified bunkers and declaring it has achieved full operational maturity. And on the exact same day, President Donald Trump told the world he is sending a second aircraft carrier to the Persian Gulf. Before we break down exactly what the Khorramshahr-4 can actually do to U.S. bases and Israeli cities, why Trump is doubling the American armada in the Gulf right now, and what happens when two carriers and a nuclear-armed Iran are pointing weapons at each other across the Strait of Hormuz, please make sure you subscribe to Daily Military Talks. We're giving you the real analysis nobody else will touch. Share this with everyone you know, because Iran firing its most lethal ballistic missile on live television, while America prepares a second carrier strike group for the Gulf, represents the most dangerous simultaneous military and diplomatic collision in the Middle East since the start of the 21st century. This is not posturing anymore. This is both sides showing their weapons with the engines running. Iranian state television broadcast footage of the Khorramshahr-4 missile inside a newly unveiled underground IRGC facility, presenting the launch to a domestic and international audience simultaneously. The missile, also known as the K-bar, has a 2,000 kilometers range, meaning it can reach every U.S. military base across the Gulf, all of Israel, and NATO infrastructure across parts of southern Europe. It carries a 1,500 Yidi warhead, the heaviest payload of any confirmed Iranian ballistic missile in active service. The IRGC's own state media said the missile reaches speeds of Mach 16 outside the atmosphere and drops to Mach 8 on re-entry, which means it can strike Tel Aviv from Iran in less than 12 minutes. 12 minutes. That is the entire window Israel has to detect, track, compute a firing solution, launch an interceptor, and destroy it before it hits. But here's what nobody saw coming about the timing of this missile launch that exposes Iran's true negotiating strategy going into Oman. The deployment was reported to have occurred on February 4th, mere hours before anticipated U.S.-Iran nuclear talks in Oman. A calculated effort to harden Iran's negotiating posture by demonstrating irreversible military facts on the ground. Iran did not fire this missile in secret. Iran did not quietly test it in the desert away from cameras. Iran put it on national television and broadcast it globally deliberately on the morning of the day their diplomats were flying to Oman to sit across from American envoys. That is not a diplomatic gesture. That is a threat delivered in the language of ballistic trajectories. Then came the revelation about what this missile actually does to every American defense system in the Gulf that is supposed to stop it. According to specifications released by IRGC-affiliated Fars News, the Khorramshahr-4 is equipped with mid-course guidance, designed specifically to mitigate the effects of electronic warfare alongside a maneuverable warhead, with tactical engines that enhance terminal phase accuracy to within 30 meters. Think about what that means for Aegis-equipped destroyers in the Persian Gulf. The Aegis combat system on U.S. Navy ships was built to intercept missiles traveling in predictable arcs. The Khorramshahr-4 maneuvers, it changes course in the terminal phase. It is specifically engineered to defeat the exact systems the U.S. has deployed to protect the fleet. And here's where the missile's underground deployment reveals the strategic trap Iran has set that planners must confront. The IRGC has placed the Khorramshahr-4 inside fortified underground bunkers known as missile cities, mobile platforms capable of launching in less than 15 minutes. These are not fixed silos that B-2 bombers can locate on a satellite image and destroy in a preemptive strike. These are mobile launchers dispersed across Iran's territory that can be repositioned and fired simultaneously. To destroy them all, the United States would need to know exactly where every single one is located. They must know their locations at the exact moment the strike order is given. Iran knows this. That is why the Khorramshahr 4 is in those underground cities and not in the open. Think about what this actually means for the U.S. carrier strike group sitting hundreds of miles off Iran's coast right now. The carrier is the most powerful offensive weapon system the United States has ever put in the Persian Gulf. But the Khorramshahr 4, traveling at Mach 8 through the atmosphere, maneuvering in its terminal phase, launched from an underground mobile platform that American satellites have not confirmed the location of. That is a weapon the carrier cannot outrun, cannot easily intercept, and cannot preemptively destroy if its launch location is unknown. Senior IRGC officials framed the missile launch directly. We do not give up our military capabilities. If the enemy makes a mistake, we will respond with force. The enemy he is referring to is currently parked in the Arabian Sea. But what Trump revealed next proves that the missile launch did not intimidate Washington. It accelerated a decision that changes everything about the military balance in the Gulf. President Trump told Axios in an exclusive interview on February 10th that he is considering sending a second aircraft carrier strike group to the Middle East. We have an armada that is heading there, and another one might be going, Trump said directly. Either we will make a deal or we will have to do something very tough like last time. A U.S. official confirmed to Axios that discussions about the additional deployment have already taken place inside the Pentagon. The second carrier is not a possibility being floated in a think tank. It is being actively planned. Then came the confirmation that made every Iranian military commander reassess the timeline they are working with. 3 U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal on February 11th that the Pentagon has ordered a second aircraft carrier strike group to prepare for deployment to the Middle East as contingency planning for a potential strike on Iran if diplomatic efforts fail. One official said the deployment order could come in a matter of hours. Another said the Pentagon is readying a carrier for deployment within roughly 2 weeks. The USS George H.W. Bush, currently completing training exercises off the coast of Virginia, is among the most likely candidates to be ordered to the Gulf. And it could accelerate those drills if ordered to move sooner. When 2 carrier strike groups converge on the Persian Gulf simultaneously, the combined air wing gives American commanders the ability to conduct sustained offensive operations on multiple targets simultaneously, something one carrier alone cannot sustain. And here's where the diplomatic picture reveals exactly why Trump is sending a second carrier. Instead of accepting the Oman talks as a reason to wait, Iran's Supreme Leader Advisor Ali Shamkhani stood at the 47th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution on February 11th and declared publicly the Islamic Republic's missile capabilities are non-negotiable. That statement was not made in a back-channel diplomatic message. It was made in front of a crowd marking the revolution's anniversary on national television. On the same day, Trump was meeting Netanyahu at the White House. Iran's position is locked. Nuclear program only on the negotiating table. No missiles, no proxies, no domestic crackdown. The United States' position is also locked. Missiles, proxies, and enrichment must all be on the table, or there is no deal. There is no overlap. There is no compromise. Both sides know it. But what intelligence sources revealed next about what Netanyahu told Trump during their 3-hour White House meeting exposes exactly how close to a military decision this standoff has already come. Israeli defense officials told U.S. officials directly that Iran's ballistic missile program poses an existential threat to Israel, and that Israel is prepared to launch a unilateral attack against Iran to destroy its missile stockpiles and production facilities. If Iran crosses an unspecified red line, Netanyahu presented Trump with detailed information about Iran's ongoing missile reconstruction and the fact that Iran continues executing civilians despite pledges to Washington. After the meeting, Trump posted on Truth Social, "Last time, Iran decided that they were better off not making a deal, and they were hit with midnight hammer. That did not work well for them. Hopefully this time they will be more reasonable and responsible." Midnight Hammer, that was the name of the June 2025 American operation that bombed Iran's 3 nuclear facilities. Trump did not pick that reference by accident. Military analysts exposed a critical vulnerability in the IRGC's ballistic missile plan. This reveals why Iran is deploying the Khorramshahr-4 now rather than waiting. Iran's medium-range ballistic missile stockpile was reportedly rebuilt to pre-war levels faster than expected. But the reconstruction also exposed Iran's greatest vulnerability. Without the planetary mixer components intercepted in November 2025, their ability to manufacture solid-fuel missiles is degraded. The Khorramshahr-4 is a liquid-fuel missile precisely because Iran has been forced to rely on liquid propellant technology it can produce domestically. This is because their solid-fuel production pipeline remains disrupted. The missile is powerful, but it signals that Iran's most advanced production is still being rebuilt. But what the IRGC's new missile doctrine tells you about how Iran plans to actually use the Khorramshahr-4 in combat exposes a strategy that could overwhelm American defenses in ways that no single weapon can. Iran has the largest stockpile of ballistic missiles in the Middle East, according to the U.S. Office of the Director of National Intelligence. And during the 12-day war with Israel last June, Iran launched hundreds of missiles simultaneously, and a considerable number of them penetrated Israel's three-tiered missile defense system, including Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow system. Israel's own brigadier general confirmed that despite Israeli strikes on Iranian missile launchers, Iran retained the capability to hurt Israel's civilian population in a meaningful way. Saturation is Iran's strategy, not one Khorramshahr-4, dozens simultaneously from dispersed underground platforms. Maneuvering in the terminal phase, overwhelming the finite interceptor magazines on American destroyers and Israeli batteries at the same time. And here's where the second carrier changes the military calculation in a way that also dramatically raises the stakes for Iran. When one carrier is in the Persian Gulf, Iran's IRGC Naval Command runs the calculation that a swarm attack, thousands of fast attack boats, drone saturation, ballistic missile volleys might achieve a mission kill on the flight deck. Before the carrier can sustain offensive operations, the IRGC operates thousands of fast attack boats, capable of speeds exceeding 70 knots, and its doctrine is explicitly built around swarming from multiple directions to overwhelm Aegis defensive systems by sheer volume. But two carrier strike groups simultaneously means two complete air wings, over 150 combat aircraft combined, and two full Aegis destroyer screens, covering overlapping defensive envelopes. The math of the swarm attack changes completely when you double the interceptor count and double the combat air patrol coverage above the fleet. Think about what Iran's supreme leader is actually facing right now as he watches the second carrier being ordered to prepare. Khamenei, 86 years old, 37 years in absolute power, his nuclear program bombed last June. His missile factory supply chain intercepted in the Indian Ocean, his currency at a record low. Tens of thousands of his own citizens killed in protests that have not stopped. Is watching Donald Trump order a second armada to his coast while Netanyahu sits in the White House, pressing for the same military strike that destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities 8 months ago. Iranian state media has already been preparing graves at Tehran's Beheshti Izura cemetery designated for potential American casualties. The regime is not confident. The regime is cornered, and cornered regimes with Mach 8 missiles and underground bunkers are the most dangerous adversaries on Earth. Then came the warning that every Gulf Arab government received privately from Tehran that exposes the full scope of what Iran is threatening in response to two American carriers. Iranian officials have privately warned Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Turkey that if Iran is attacked, every U.S. base in each of those countries becomes a legitimate target. IRGC-affiliated FARS News named the King Fahd industrial port in Jubail, Saudi Arabia, handling 20% of all Saudi trade, as a specific retaliation target. That is not a military base. That is civilian economic infrastructure. Iran is explicitly threatening to destroy the economic foundation of the entire Gulf if the United States strikes. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are terrified, not of losing a war, but of what Iran destroys on the way to its own defeat. One thing is absolutely certain. Iran fired the Khorramshahr-4, 2,000 kilometers range, Mach 8. Maneuvering terminal phase, launching from underground in under 15 minutes on live television hours before Oman talks. Ali Shamkhani confirmed Iran's entire missile program is non-negotiable. Trump told Axios another one might be going, and the Pentagon confirmed the USS George H.W. Bush is on standby off Virginia. Netanyahu spent 3 hours pressing Trump to include Iran's missile facilities in any strike. Trump responded by invoking Midnight Hammer. The talks produced nothing, and the Karamshar 4 is sitting in an underground bunker somewhere in Iran, fueled, targeted, and waiting. The coming days will reveal whether a second American carrier arriving in the Gulf forces Iran back to the negotiating table, or whether the most powerful ballistic missile Iran has ever deployed becomes the first shot in a war that neither side can fully control once it starts. Stay tuned.